Welcome to The Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're here. Today, we're looking at the economy not as some dry academic subject, but as a complex multiplayer game. It's a game with hidden rules, silent engines, and incredible cheat codes. And the really fascinating part is, you're already playing it, whether you realize it or not. So, let's see if we can figure out the rules well enough to win.
All right, let's just dive right into this. Here is our roadmap. First, the illusion of money. Second, the invisible economic forces. Third, the price of trust. And we'll wrap up with number 4, the ultimate wealth cheat code.
Okay, part 1, the illusion of money.
Think about it for a second. Money itself, it isn't actually real. I mean, it's a social construct, a shared belief system. The only real difference between a crisp dollar bill and, say, a random stick you find in the woods is just our collective agreement. We all woke up today and agreed that the piece of paper is worth something, while the stick, well, it's just a stick. This whole currency thing relies entirely on human trust.
And honestly, that trust extends to where we actually keep it, right? As kids, we kind of assume banks are these giant, impenetrable vaults, like a safe guarded by a fire-breathing dragon, where your specific dollar bills just sit there waiting for you. But the reality? Banks are actually just matchmakers. They're middlemen. When you deposit $1,000, the bank doesn't lock it away. No, they take 900 of it and immediately hand it to someone else who wants to borrow money to go buy a jet ski.
So, that brings us to this concept: fractional reserve banking. Basically, it's a system where banks only keep a tiny fraction of deposited money on hand, and they lend out the rest to make a profit through interest. And here's the crazy part. The entire system miraculously works because of one massive assumption. The bank is relying on the fact that not everyone is going to walk through those front doors and ask for their money back at the exact same time.
But what happens when everyone does line up to withdraw their money? Well, you get 2008. When that trust just evaporates and panic sets in, everyone rushes to the matchmaker demanding their cash. And because the bank only holds a fraction of that money, the whole fractional system just crumbles. It's a pretty stark reminder of exactly how fragile this illusion can really be.
Now, before you go stuffing your life savings into a shoebox under your bed, take a breath. Look at this number, $250,000. To prevent that kind of panic, the U.S. government provides FDIC insurance. They literally guarantee that your bank deposits up to this amount are completely safe. So no matter what happens to those bad jet ski loans the bank made, your money up to $250K is secure. And it's really that assurance that keeps the whole game stable.
So keeping this whole system stable requires some serious maintenance, which brings us to taxes. Imagine you're slaving away flipping burgers. You're expecting a $2,000 check, but your account only gets what, $1,456? The rest is just swept away by these invisible forces. We've got different taxes for different things, right? Income tax on what you make, sales tax on what you spend, Social Security as a sort of forced retirement savings. But love them or hate them, the reality is that taxes are basically the cost of civilization. They're what ensures we actually have paved roads, functioning schools, and that your favorite local taco truck isn't totally infested with rats.
Moving right along to part 2, the invisible economic forces.
First up, we have to talk about inflation. Now, inflation isn't some sudden, dramatic explosion. It's way more insidious. It's a slow, quiet erosion of your money's value. You know the feeling. You open a bag of your favorite chips, notice it's basically half empty, and realize you paid 30% more for it than you did just a year ago. Your $5 bill is still technically a $5 bill, but its actual power, its ability to buy instant noodles or gas, has seriously shrunk. Picture this. You've got 2,000 people who all desperately want 1,000 TVs. When you have too much money chasing too few goods, businesses realize pretty quickly that they can charge more. So, that $500 TV, it suddenly becomes an $800 TV. You add in some global supply chain hiccups that make manufacturing more expensive, or just everyday consumer panic where people buy early because they expect prices to go up, and boom, you've got the perfect recipe for an inflation spike. But look, economies don't just go up forever, right? Eventually we hit a recession, which is basically an economic reality check. Officially, it's defined as when the economy shrinks for at least 2 quarters, so 6 months. This is when the music stops, jobs vanish, companies aggressively start cutting costs, and everyday people abruptly shift from casually spending money to hoarding it for absolute necessities.
Honestly, you can think of the economic cycle exactly like a party. Step 1 is the boom. The drinks are flowing, everyone's dancing, life is good. Step 2 is the peak, where the lights kind of flicker and reality hits. Then comes step 3, the bust. The DJ is playing sad, lo-fi beats, someone checks their bank account, and yeah, the party is completely over. But then we hit step 4,
which is the reset. This is where governments step in. Maybe they lower interest rates or send out stimulus checks to jumpstart the economy, and the rebuilding finally begins.
Which brings us to part 3, the price of trust. Right at the center of your personal financial identity is your credit score. It's a number ranging from 300 to 850. And really, this 3-digit number is just a massive trust metric used by lenders. If you fall below a 580, you are a walking red flag to a bank. But if you're sitting over a 750, you are just sparkling with adult credibility, and that gets you access to the best houses, cars, and loan terms.
So how exactly do you get that sparkling credibility? Well, payment history is absolutely the biggest one. Basically, do you pay on time? Your credit score is essentially like a pet dog. If you ignore it and miss payments, it ruins your life and leaves messes everywhere. But if you take care of it, feed it with consistent on-time payments, and responsibly manage your credit mix, someday it becomes your absolute best friend and helps you buy a house.
And that credit score completely dictates the interest you pay. Now, interest is basically money charging rent to exist in someone else's hands. There are 2 main types you need to know. Simple interest is just a flat fee for playing the game. But compound interest, oh man, that's when your dollars have clones, and those clones also start charging rent. Compound interest literally multiplies whatever it touches.
Which makes it incredibly dangerous when you're in debt. Let's say you buy a $12 burrito on a credit card charging 20% compound interest, and then you miss a few payments. Suddenly, that interest starts earning interest. Your $12 lunch becomes a $50 regret. In the world of loans, interest is this slow burn that causes raging financial fires. You absolutely have to kill bad debt, and you have to do it fast.
All right, here we go. Part 4, the ultimate wealth cheat code.
So, how do you combat the quiet theft of inflation? By investing. You have to stop trading your time for money and start trading your money for more money. You can buy stocks, which are just tiny ownership slices of businesses. You can buy bonds, which is literally you loaning money out for interest. You can buy funds, which are super easy collections of both. Or real estate, where someone else actually pays to live in your property. These vehicles, they are your shield and your sword in this economic game.
And succeeding in these investments really just comes down to understanding value. Take a look at a standard handbag versus a designer handbag. They literally hold the exact same items, so why is one marked up 100 times more? It's all about perceived value. Think of a normal rock versus a shiny yellow rock we call gold. Gold isn't inherently better, but human perception dictates its wealth. If you can create or invest in things that humans perceive as highly valuable, kind of like how Steve Jobs created the iPhone, you unlock immense financial rewards.
But here's the thing. The true secret ingredient to all of this isn't just picking the right stock or building the next iPhone. It's time. Wealth isn't built in days. It's built in decades. Time is literally the most valuable asset you possess. If you take modest paychecks and just consistently invest them, letting that powerful compound interest work for you instead of against you, those small investments multiply. That is exactly how ordinary people retire with 7 figures. They don't magically beat the system, they just use the system over a really long period.
Which leaves us here. We've decoded the illusion of money, the forces of inflation, the critical nature of trust and credit, and the incredible multiplying power of investing over time. The matrix is basically decoded. So I'm going to leave you with this provocative question to think about. Now that you actually know the rules of the game, how will you spend your time? Thank you so much for joining me in this explainer, and I seriously cannot wait to see how you apply these rules to your own life.